Shocking truth why death isn't what you think. I used to think the term passed away was just a euphemism, a way to avoid the hard truth. I thought, why did they say passed away or transitioned or went home? Just be plain. He died. Don't sugarcoat it. My first grief counselor told me when you can say died instead of something like passed away, you're on the road to healing. But the more I learned, the more I realized we plain speak people had it backwards. Died is the lie. It means cessation, the end of life. But you cannot cease to be. You are life. You are not your body. Here's what I mean. If you were your body, would you be the same person as the baby that was born with your name? Think about it. Your cells turn over constantly, skin cells every few weeks, red blood cells every few months. Most of your body replaces itself every 7 to 10 years. Virtually none of the cells in your body now are the same cells from when you were born. Certainly none of the molecules in your body. You eat, you assimilate, you eliminate. There's constant turnover. Your body is made up of completely different stuff than newborn you, than 5 year old you, or even you from a decade ago. There's an ancient philosophical paradox. It's called the ship of Theseus. And it asks if you replace every plank of a ship one by one, is it still the same ship? Well, your body is that ship. It's been completely rebuilt dozens of times over your lifetime. Yet, you're still you. Why? Because what's continuous isn't your body, it's your consciousness. Your brain is a receiver, not a creator of consciousness. We've been taught that the brain creates consciousness the way a generator creates electricity. But the evidence points to something different. Your brain is more like a filter, a receiver, like a radio picking up a signal that exists whether the radio is turned on or not. When the radio breaks, the music doesn't cease to exist. The broadcast waves are still out there. You just can't hear it anymore through that particular device. This isn't just philosophy. Near death experiencers tell us this consistently. They report expanded consciousness when the brain is compromised, enhanced awareness when the filter is damaged. They describe experiences that are often more vivid, more real than normal waking consciousness. The brain seems to reduce experience, not create it. Dr. Pim van Lommel's research showed NDEs occurring during measurable periods of no brain activity. How do you have a lucid experience with a non functioning creator of consciousness? I tell you how, because consciousness doesn't originate in the brain. Even the government knows consciousness isn't local. If you think the idea that consciousness exists beyond the body is just wishful thinking, think about this. The US government spent over 20 years and $20 million studying it. From 1972 to 1975, the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency ran a classified program called Stargate. The mission? To see if consciousness could gather intelligence from locations thousands of miles away. Physicists Russell Targ and Harold Pudoff at Stanford Research Institute developed protocols for remote viewing, the ability to perceive and describe distant locations without being physically present. And it worked. Remote viewer Pat Price, a former police officer, was given only geographic coordinates for a target site in the Soviet Union. What he described was startling: a large building near water, people assembling a massive 60-foot diameter metal sphere from curved sections, workers struggling with welding because the pieces kept warping. He sketched what he saw in remarkable detail. 3 years later, Aviation Week magazine published a story about the Soviet atomic bomb laboratory at Semiplastinsk. The sphere Price has described, which he drawn as about 58 feet in diameter, was real. It was designed to capture and store energy from nuclear driven explosives. Russell Targ, a physicist, later said, "The accuracy of Price's drawing is the sort of thing that, as a physicist, I would never have believed if I had not seen it for myself." The program achieved a reported accuracy rate of 65% or higher in later experiments. Remote viewers located a downed Soviet aircraft in Africa. They described hidden Soviet military installations. They identified the location of a kidnapped American general in Italy. For over 2 decades, the government used this capability because it demonstrated something they couldn't ignore. Consciousness can operate independent of the physical body. It can access information across vast differences without any known physical mechanism. So think about what this means. If your consciousness can see what's happening thousands of miles away while your body sits in a room in California, then consciousness clearly isn't created by your brain or confined to your skull. The government knows this. They studied it, they used it, they just don't talk about it a lot. This isn't fringe science. It's documented, declassified government research that ran for over 20 years because it produced results. Consciousness is non local. It's not bound by space. It's not confined to the body. And if it's not confined to the body in this life, why would it be extinguished when the body stops functioning? So let's move from a subject in a lab to the real world. One of the most common features of near death experiences is what happens in the first instant. People don't report confusion or darkness or gradual fading. Now, there is something called the void that people sometimes report, but it's a little bit different from just fading out into blackness. They report finding themselves immediately outside of their bodies, watching this scene unfold. About 1 in 10 cardiac arrest patients reports a near death experience. Of those, about a quarter describe out of body experiences where they observe medical personnel performing resuscitation efforts. This account from a woman who experienced complications during childbirth is only one of thousands of examples. The obstetrician yelled, "Get her into the ER now." And suddenly she found herself, the essence of herself, floating in the corner of the labor room near the ceiling, looking down on the scene. She watched as they rushed her body to the operating room and tried to resuscitate both her and her baby. She felt no emotion, just observation, just awareness. Or the case of Pam Reynolds, perhaps the most documented near death experience in medical literature. In 1991, Pam underwent brain surgery to remove a dangerous aneurysm. The procedure required lowering her body temperature to 60 degrees, stopping her heart, and draining the blood from her brain. Her brainwave activity, of course, flatlined. By every medical measure, she was clinically dead. During the operation, she heard the bone saw start up, a sound she described as a natural D. She felt it pull her out of the top of her head. Suddenly, she was floating above the operating table, watching Dr. Spetzler work. She saw the surgical saw, which she said looked like an electric toothbrush. She observed she observed the interchangeable blades stored in what looked like a socket wrench case, as she described it. She heard the surgeon say her arteries and veins are too small, followed by use the other side. Her eyes were taped shut. Her ears were plugged with speakers emitting clicks to monitor her brainstem. She was under deep anesthesia with no detectable brain function, yet every detail she reported was later confirmed as accurate. Now, how does someone with no brain activity, eyes taped shut, and ears plugged see, hear, and remember precise details about a scene? Because they were there, just not in their body. The thing is, there's not even an interruption. Near death experiences say something really remarkable about the moment of transition. Some leave through the tops of their heads, some through their chests, some just pop out. But there's no gap, no darkness, no void, no fade to black. You're here, then you're there. One woman told me it was like walking from one room into another, completely seamless. Another said, "I didn't die, I woke up." A third described it as, "I felt more aware than normal. My vision was brighter, more focused, clearer than normal vision. I was absolutely me without the body." So I want you to think about that. The moment we call death, the thing we fear most, isn't experienced as an ending. Not at all. It's a continuation, it's a shift in location, not a cessation of being. The body stops, but you don't. Now, an analogy here that works for me. Dying is like leaving your old car behind when you get a new one. My car was actually just totaled. So the car is left behind. I won't see that car again. It's broken down. It's no longer functional. But I moved on. I was never the car. I was the driver. The body dies, consciousness continues. Again, this is not wishful thinking. This is not spiritual bypassing. It's what the evidence points to, what thousands of near death experiences report, what the research into consciousness suggests, what the government's own classified programs confirmed. And it changes everything about how we understand grief. So for me, what this means for grief is like, for example, when my daughter Shayna passed, everyone told me she died, including that first grief counselor. That word carried so much weight, so much finality. It meant that I had to accept that she was gone, that she ceased to exist, that there was nothing left of the person that I loved. But as I studied near death experiences, spoke with mediums, researched consciousness, I realized the truth. She didn't die. She couldn't die. She passed away. She transitioned. She went home. She crossed over. These are not euphemisms to soften the blow. They're the most accurate descriptions we have for what actually happened. Her body stopped functioning, but she, the consciousness, the essence, the person that I knew and loved, continues. And this doesn't eliminate grief. The loss is still profound. The absence is still painful, but it transforms the nature of what we're grieving. We're not grieving someone who ceased to exist. We're grieving the loss of physical presence, the inability to hug them, to hear their voice, to share our days with them in the way that we're accustomed to. Now, that is real, that is valid, and that deserves to be felt fully and acknowledged. But it's not the same as believing they've been annihilated, eliminated, erased, extinguished from existence. The real truth is this: died implies an end that actually never comes. Passed away describes a reality, a shift in form, not an extinction of being. So when someone tells you that you need to accept death as the end to heal, so when someone so when someone tells you that you need to accept death as the end to heal, you know they're wrong. The real healing comes when you accept the truth. Your loved one didn't cease to exist. They just left the rail car behind, and they're doing just fine without it. In fact, based upon what near death experiences consistently report, the peace, the clarity, the expanded awareness, the reunions with loved ones, they're doing better than fine. They're actually home. So, what language does make sense? If died is a lie, what should we say instead? I've touched on this earlier. I work with medium John Edward. He uses the language of crossing over. That's his signature phrase, and it's remarkably accurate. It captures the movement from one state to another, a transition, not a termination. Transition is another excellent term. It's short, it's sweet, and it acknowledges change without implying cessation. Now, I've read work by authors who use the word risen, which I love. It beautifully conveys the opposite of what died suggests, not a descent into nothingness, but an ascent into expanded existence. Passed away isn't the euphemism I once thought it was. It's actually more truthful than died. They passed from one form of existence to another. They moved away from the physical plane. And the language we use matters. It shapes how we think, it shapes how we grieve, how we relate to those we love who are no longer in physical form. When we say someone died, we're reinforcing a lie that makes grief harder than it needs to be. When we say crossed over, transition, passed away, or even rose, we're acknowledging the truth. They're still them, just in a different form, in a different location, still conscious, still aware, still connected to us, just no longer confined to a physical body. What about you? Do you use the word died, transitioned, risen, crossed over, something else? And is it important to you to use precise language? And does this make a difference to you to maybe thinking about it this way? Let me know. Love to hear from you.